welcome to my new Shithole series, where we examine how late-stage progressivism is turning our once beautiful cities into complete shitholes, and in the case of San Francisco, a literal shithole.
There's more feces on the sidewalks than I've ever seen, growing up here. That was something that wasn't the norm.
Than you've ever seen.
Than I've ever seen, for sure.
We surveyed 153 blocks of downtown San Francisco. We spent 3 days walking up and down every street, inspecting more than 20 miles of the city. We found trash on every block, 303 piles of feces, and 100 needles.
There's a website where residents can log complaints with the city. You can go on it at any time and find thousands and thousands of reports about feces. New ones are filed roughly every 20 minutes. In one case, a quote, big bag of poo filled with approximately 20 pounds of feces that was oozing out was discarded on a San Francisco sidewalk.
I need a third world country, but it's not as bad as this.
Dr. Riley has researched some of the dirtiest slums in the world, but believes contamination levels in parts of San Francisco may now be even worse.
Much higher than what we see in places like Brazil or Kenya or India.
But why should anyone need to shit on the streets when there are 82 Starbucks in San Francisco? Someone should start a leafleting campaign amongst the homeless, letting them know that Starbucks is now America's biggest public toilet. San Francisco also has the honor of being America's largest unsupervised outdoor mental hospital. Aside from turds, something else that lines the streets of this liberal utopia is used needles. Lots of them.
A Sheener class walked right by nearly a dozen drug needles.
And who's responsible for that? It couldn't be the leftist government that runs the city itself, could it? Surely they wouldn't be handing out millions of needles to drug addicts every year. Surely not. I mean, yeah, it's them. At a cost of over $500,000, the city's health department hands out 400,000 syringes a month every month. That's nearly 5 million a year. That's so common that during filming for NBC about this very problem, the new mayor walked right by a guy prepping a needle. In the name of reducing infection from contaminated needles, the health department boasts that it has reduced the number of new HIV infections among people who inject drugs from 106 in 2010 to 38 in 2016. Whoop-de-doo! Out of 400,000 needles distributed monthly, 246,000 come back, leaving 154,000 needles on the streets, in parks and playgrounds. All because the government is giving them out for free, keeping drug addicts mired in an endless cycle of dependency and delinquency. But they've installed new trash cans, because my first thought, if I was simultaneously crapping my pants and coming up on a fevered heroin high, would be my civic duty to recycle responsibly. San Francisco is set to open staffed indoor injection sites.
That's where people can shoot up their own drugs indoors under supervision.
And while this does reduce overdose deaths, it's just a band-aid on a gaping wound. When they opened these in Vancouver, many of the drug addicts just congregated nearby. They were still on the streets. Many people assert that this does nothing to fix the problem and just encourages heroin use. And are you happy that your tax dollars are going towards the government providing a safe space for junkies? But hey, as ratty as San Francisco is, there's no denying the magic. The magic in this case being an ugly modern art installation based on Black Lives Matter's demonstrably false hands up don't shoot narrative. So magical. Crime is also rampant in this progressive utopia, being higher than 92.7% of the United States. And although they've been reduced somewhat more recently thanks to increased police foot patrols, car break-ins are still at epidemic levels, with 30,000 last year alone.
I call San Francisco the utopian petri dish of America. We try out every crazy liberal idea there, and then sometimes they spread to other cities.
Haight-Ashbury, once a hippie paradise, now looks like this.
Violent brawls in broad daylight. The San Francisco neighborhood where crime is getting so bad, people are scared to step outside their own homes.
A major medical convention that has held its event in the city since the 80s and brings in $40 million every time it does, announced that it was abandoning San Francisco and cancelling the event because its members didn't feel safe walking the streets. Gee, I wonder why.
If you come to San Francisco.
Listen to what frightened tourists say about San Francisco. Is this normal, or am I in a bad part of town? Just walked past numerous homeless off their faces, screaming and running all over the sidewalk near Twitter HQ, and then a murder scene. Wife is scared to leave hotel now. A resident responded, I'm honestly hoping tourists will realise how shitty this city has become and stop coming. Maybe the loss of income will finally push the city to stop allowing the rampant drug dealing and homeless people treating the entire city like their toilet. You see things on the streets that are just not humane, said Kevin Carroll, Executive Director of the Hotel Council of San Francisco. People coming into hotels saying, what is going on out there? They're just shocked. People say, I love your city, I love your restaurants, but I'll never come back.
They feel their safety is at risk because they're seeing so many people that are having issues.
They see people laying on the streets, there's petty crimes going on in the street.
I lift my heart in San Francisco.
Why does San Francisco have a massive homeless population? Because it has the highest housing prices in the United States, which is exacerbated by it being one of the hardest cities in the United States in which to build houses. So leftist micromanagement by means of onerous regulation and crippling bureaucracy is driving the city's affordable housing shortage and homeless problem. Is San Francisco's new Democratic mayor going to do anything to fix this? Don't hold your breath. In her very first interview, she said she wouldn't enforce any penalties against people who poo in the streets.
Are you talking about harsher penalties?
I didn't express anything about a penalty.
She seems more concerned with protecting illegal immigrants from ICE than protecting her own citizens from crime and degradation.
The goal is to treat our immigrant community the same as if they are a real part of our community, whether they're our citizen or not.
If you got word of an imminent ICE raid and standing up and warning the community about that?
I think I could, yes.
Oh, and now they get the right to vote too. They've also upped spending on homeless services by 40% over the last 5 years. Yet homeless rates remain the same. Whatever they're doing, it's clearly not working.
He says multiple clients refused to enter his salon because this woman was defecating in front of it.
When you call the police, they say there's absolutely nothing that can be done.
He feels like he's watching the city center die and wants Mayor Ed Lee to do something now.
San Francisco is a shithole for 3 main reasons. 1, laws against public drug use and public defecation are not being enforced. 2, the government is incentivizing this lifestyle, not disincentivizing it. 3, there's no expectation on the underclass to take responsibility for their behavior. When the people who run your city have a political motivation to keep people trapped in dependency and on welfare, which in turn fosters dysfunctionality, poor behavior, and a lack of self-respect, then your city's problems with the consequences of people having no self-respect, being dysfunctional, and behaving poorly will only continue to get worse. If you subsidize a culture of degeneracy and debasement, you make that an option for people. If you incentivize shitting on the streets and injecting yourself with heroin, don't be surprised when people shit on the streets and inject themselves with heroin. How about helping poor people lift themselves out of dependency, not doing everything in your power to keep them locked into it? San Francisco spends an average $40,000 every single year on every single homeless person. Instead of spending money giving needles to junkies, why not spend that money on paying them to clean the streets? Why not spend that money on paying them to pick up the needles? Give them store credit cards in return for Ziploc bags full of syringes. Why not spend that money on training them to build affordable houses? Is San Francisco the model globalist city with the super rich ensconced in their high-rise luxury bubbles?
You see, they're too busy trying to undo the election. They don't have time to clean up the city in which they live. They never walk in the city. You think Nancy Pelosi walks in downtown San Francisco? Are you crazy? Do you think Jerry Brown walks in San Francisco? Are you nuts?
Safely protected from a growing underclass who become increasingly poor, degenerate, diseased, and mentally ill, as a direct consequence of the government accommodating, rewarding, and funding all their destructive vices. Is this the destiny of pathological progressivism gone too far? Is this our collective future? So in answer to your question,
if you come to San Francisco.
No.
please click the big red button to subscribe. It really helps me when you do that. And click the bell to allow notifications so you never miss a new video. Survival Shield X2 Nascent Iodine. If you're interested in healthy thyroid, if you're interested in well-being,